Hello, Hail Trackers. This is Derek Klein coming to you from the Hail Palace. We're checking out some new technology. Big thanks, big shout out to the Potts Law Firm for making this all possible. Those guys are going to be a big part of what we do this year, enabling us to continue to add technology, make everything much better than what we had last year, and continuing to allow us to provide this to you for free on Facebook. So big shout out to those guys. Make sure to check them out online. The Potts Law Firm is definitely a great option for you restoration contractors and anybody that works in the restoration industry. You definitely need to check those guys out. So today, though, we're going to talk about the 2015 hail forecast. So are we going to need those guys? Are you going to need HailTrace? Is HailTrace going to need you? That's what we're going to take a look at here. So jumping into the 2015 hail forecast, this is what we have going on right now. So this is the reason why we have had no severe weather so far in the U.S. We've had the subtropical jet racing across Texas into the southeast, and really it's just keeping things cold as it allows the polar air to just race down into the southeast. We get a lot of cold air. We don't get any hail in the U.S. So that's been the big issue that we've had so far this year, is that all the moisture staying to the south along the Gulf Coast, not allowing us to get any warm air into the U.S., not allowing us to get any instability. We stay warm, we stay cold and unstable, we don't get any hail. So the pattern change that we're expecting for 2015, or hoping will happen here fairly soon, is that we'll have that subtropical jet will lift a little bit more to the north, and that polar air will also lift a little bit more to the north, and that'll allow us to get some moisture to come out of the Gulf of Mexico up into the southern plains and really start to get the severe weather season going. And we're noticing that now this week. As we go into the weekend, into next week, we're going to see that warmer air begin to lift north, and that's going to start to allow some moisture to creep back up into the U.S. and hopefully start some severe weather here as we go in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Set up that battleground right there in the southern plains as well. That's kind of where everything tends to fire off, especially in early spring. So taking a look at early spring, this is what we expect. If you're across the north, don't expect a whole lot. At least through mid-May, we're going to have that cold air, that dry air in place. It's not going to allow us to get a whole lot of severe weather. But across the south, the southern plains, potentially over into the Carolinas, we could definitely have some severe weather, some big-time hail events as we go into the second half of March, and specifically more April into May. Looks like we're going to get pretty active. We're going to at least try to make a run at getting back towards average with the record low slowness that we've had so far to start the year. So that's what we'll be looking for as we get into the first part of spring. Now, where's it going to happen at? Well, in order to do that, we just have to watch the dry line. So if the dry line sets up on I-35, you get severe weather just to the east. Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Dallas, they get the big hail events. Typically in March, we see that it sets up across eastern Oklahoma, East Texas, maybe even Arkansas, Missouri. So you get places like St. Louis, Memphis, Little Rock, Shreveport. Those folks get most of the severe weather in March. And that's where most of the big hail happens at. That's because these storms, they come racing out from the west across the country. They're just moving really quick. Now, as we get into April, May, this has a tendency to slow down, and we see those storm systems actually back up into Oklahoma. And that's when we start to get more severe weather back into the Central Plains. Then you get multiple day events where they just race across the country, and then it gets Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville, Louisville, all these folks start to get some severe weather. And that's typically why we see a lot more severe weather in May, as these systems have a tendency to slow down as they move across the country. So taking a look at the forecast, though, this is what we've seen so far. So the nation will continue to be below average for this year. But we expect it to be better than last year. So last year, we only had 5,500 reports. You have to go all the way back to 2000 to find a year that was that slow in the U.S. So it's been a while since we've had a year as slow as last year. We're expecting this year to be better. In fact, we could actually have 2,000 more reports this year, and we would still be below average. So it'll be significantly better than last year, but still below average. So again, we're not expecting to set things on fire. We're already way behind on the year. But we do expect that we are going to have more severe weather than what we had last year. And of course, it's always all about where it hits. So if it hits a big city, it's going to be a big time storm. So March 2015 hail forecast. This is kind of what we expect to see in March. This is actually a trend of where we see hail across the United States. And as you can see, really the bullseye is the southern plains over towards Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. That's a big part of the country. That's where they get hit typically. And it really goes back to that position of the dry line that we talked about not too long ago. But this is kind of the average area. Best chance for hail, again, we're expecting it right in that area as well. So that should go along with what we're expecting. But we're going to have to wait a little bit, probably another 2 weeks before we start to see that hail move across. and start to really pick up. So we appreciate you, though, for jumping in and watching our forecast. If you have any questions about the forecast, anything that we talked about, make sure to give us a call, 855-334-4245, or just give us a shout on email or even on Facebook on any of those social media platforms. Hope you have a great day.